summer you can have those reflective times in the water, but in the winter when it's when it's 4 degrees, you really don't stop and reflect at that point. You just get in and swim and get out again. You don't have time to use it to be creative.
No, certainly, and we both have, as I'm sure lots of people do who swim at your Lido, we both have a mutual love of the cold.
Yes.
And we both, I picked up,
yeah.
Out of all the people in your book, I picked up on the person that you admire the most as well, which is Agnes Nix.
Yes.
Yeah, the lady who swam for 13 hours,
yes.
Is that right? In ridiculously cold water. I don't even know that that's humanly possible.
It's all, yeah, you do read that and think there must be a typo, but you check newspaper report against newspaper report against newspaper, and they all say the same thing. But then she does kind of look like she could just keep going. She looks like I really don't actually give a fuck about this. I'm just going to swim and keep swimming, and nothing's going to stop me from doing it. She has an aura about her, even from old photos. She just looks like, yeah, no mess. I wouldn't mess with that woman. She looks awesome.
Just going to get on, and then I'm going to get up and go to work next.
And then she goes and does these amazing swims, and then goes to work the next day. Like without any fanfare or hoo-ha. Really, really incredible. I'm really full of admiration for all of those women doing it at a time when it was very uncool for.
Yeah.
I say disallowed. I can't think that's a word, but I'm going to say it anyway. Kind of disallowed for women to swim, and then there's these few women who were doing it. Have you found the picture of her in the book?
Oh, can you show me?
There's a picture of her. There's also a picture of her in the book with this guy kind of greasing up her leg. I mean, that's another recurrent theme in photos, is men applying grease to women. They really go for it in a very salacious kind of way. This is guy, kind of elderly colonel-looking gent in tweeds, applying grease liberally to Agnes Nix's legs, and she's kind of like standing there like, hey, really, just leave it. And her friend with a doll, holding a gollywog doll. I mean, which is just so strange. But anyway. So that's her. There's lots of. I mean, all the women in the book I admire. For some more than others, there are women who would have driven me absolutely mad if I'd known them in real life, but all of them doing amazing things.
Sorry, just read slapping the lard.
Well, also there's another woman who didn't like to use lard. There's one woman who insisted on swimming naked, and because all the men used to swim naked, and so in this one particular race in America it was called the chewing gum swim, because the guy who set it up saw that the channel was getting lots of publicity, so he set up a swim, and he was made a fortune from Wrigley's chewing gum, so they called it the chewing gum swim. And all the men swam naked in these things, so this woman decided that she'd swim naked. Of course, this made people apoplectic with rage that a woman might swim naked. But anyway, in the end, this brazen hussy went and swam this thing naked, and she didn't like to use grease. She liked to use motor oil. And every now and again, she would have her support boat, because the kind of nutrition you get on a support boat in a long swim is really, really important. People, there's scientific studies about this, it's really, really key. She was fed whiskey from a pipette. So this is a great image of this woman swimming for 20 hours, or she did this phenomenal swim for hours and hours, covered in motor oil and drinking whiskey. and then at the end, kind of got out and went dancing with her husband. I thought, oh, good on you, girl. You smell like an old car and you're totally pissed, but you're going dancing. I mean, you've got a mild tenacity, haven't you, really?
You sound like you've got a bit soft.
Yeah.
Could you read another piece for me?
Yes.
I've marked.
Yes.
About the experience of I've called it the winter swim, but
Okay. Okay. Some of you, I know some of you who do swim at Tooting will recognise these feelings. How did I get in on an ice air day? How do I? Stripping off your clothes is the hardest bit. But still, walking down the steps is hard. The key thing is not to think and not to gasp at the shock of the cold, although that's your instinct. Breathe, breathe, control. Sometimes I sing, a little operatically perhaps, because the cold is forcing the air out, and there's space here for my voice to be loud if I want, and nobody will care. I drop my knees to get my shoulders under, then start to swim, dipping my head like a reluctant bird, my face going further and further into the water with each stroke until I feel ready to put it right into the sharp cold. On the most frozen of days, the lifeguards push the ice away from the shallow end so we can swim across. Don't think. Then when my head is under, I can hear the way the ice sings, creaking and sweet, and see flecks of it suspended in the blue, thick water, and it's like being in a weird indie film with a soundtrack by the Cocteau Twins. And the water will pinch, that kind of really ages me, doesn't it? But hey. The water will pinch my skin and slap, 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 sting me, even though it's thick like treacle. But I swim across one side to the other. Maybe also swim back if I can. And now my fingers are going to burst, and my knees, no, I don't know why, are hot like boiling cakes. And I'm smiling so hard my face might actually have frozen, and that's enough. I grab the ice-clad steps to haul myself out. I look like a steaming lobster pulled out of the pan. And I realise that none of this makes it sound tempting at all. But then I skitter to the sauna, and maybe I laugh a bit out loud to nobody, and I think, for the tiniest time, that I might be a goddess, or an Amazonian, or a fantastic woman at least. And I feel very alive, totally alive, like I've never really felt alive before.
And I know, I mean, there must be lots of us here that swim through winter, and that just that last sentence, so particularly the women, that feeling like a goddess, I don't know, really resonates inside of me. I think every time I step out of the lake, I think I'm a goddess. In winter. Every sentence of that really had a huge amount of meaning for me. Even the lobster bit, the knees. Why?
I don't know why that happens.
What?
There must be a scientific reason about, I don't know. I don't kind of really care actually.
But what?
In case anybody feels they want to explain it to me, I don't really need to know.
It's like I find the whole cold. I mean, I love swimming all through the seasons, but it's for winter for me. Creatively, the clarity of the water is better for photographs, but it's the best time for everything. Because it's deep inside. The cold gets inside your bones. I don't know. It just feels amazing.
Well, I think it's addictive as well. I really genuinely do feel it's like an addiction. So I think you kind of once you let the addiction in, you almost don't have any choice. You do have to keep feeding the addiction, because if you stop, then suddenly you kind of go, oh man, did I do that? God, that's. But while you're in it and doing it, you kind of you're feeding yourself the whole time with feeding that addiction, because it becomes, if you haven't done it for a few days, it kind of becomes like a
twitchy,
like a twitch. I'm trying to remember the phrase that Nell Frizzell used when she described it as a kind of a swimming itch, that's for cold water particularly. That that kind of that twitch that you get.
Yeah, because I'm talking in the film in there, I talk about afterglow, which anyone who's swum really has probably experienced, that flood of warmth that you get. And I mean, I can't even tell you the last time I experienced that. And I used to think, the more I swim, the more I'll get it. The colder it is, the colder I get it. And it just, you swim so much now that it doesn't happen. But why do we still keep going in? Why is, and I guess it is an addiction that's there.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, you can't call it exercise because you might be swimming for 100 meters, but that's really generous. Let's pretend I swim 100 meters. I mean, there's people that swim, kilometers at 5 degrees, or and I think those people are mad. I think we all have degrees of how mad we think people are. I'm just quite mad. And then there's really, really out there people who swim like the ice mile, which is just, why would you do that? Just go for a nice little swim in frozen water.
I mean, out in Finland this year I was doing ice holing, and we went to the extent of spending 4 hours cutting with chainsaws holes in the ice, only to get in for a minute and then get out again.
Have you seen those things though, where people get in one hole and then swim and come up another hole, and that is just the worst possible. That's so frightening, because you would get trapped under the ice.
Yeah.
And there would be your face. There would be your family looking down. And there would be you. I just know that would happen. So
yeah, there was.
Is that my one?
No, that's right.
There was while we pushed our cubes, they called them. They were ginormous. Under the ice, and I was very intrigued to know where they'd gone, and I didn't really want to go in because it was it all seemed a bit sinister and morbid. But so there was a bit of an interest to going under to have a look, but I mean it was too deep really to even
as long as you were tied with a rope, that would maybe be all right, and maybe were married to the person who was holding the rope, so you knew that they had some investment in you staying alive.
They assured me that the ice floats, and all it does is just goes as near as it can and then sticks to the ice underneath. But anyway, yeah, I just got in and tried not to think about it.
Yeah, no, that's a really key part, I think, is to not engage your brain for quite a lot of the process. Yeah. And it's more interesting not to engage your brain because, we think about, constantly engaged in processing and thinking and analysing, and actually it's really nice just to not think and not analyse and just to switch your brain off and shut all the clatter down. Because if you start to think about it, you probably wouldn't do it. I went for a swim today and somebody at the side said, I don't think I'm going to get in. And as soon as I started to think, maybe I won't get in, because the sky was really grey and it was only 10 degrees, it's not warm enough, and they were kind of like, and I thought, maybe. And then you just go, okay, don't think, because you'll just go, I'll go home, and then I'll go home and go, why did I not get in? I'm such an idiot. So you just have to kind of constantly quieting your thoughts.
Talking about grey,
yeah,
the Channel.
Now I went to my Channel, the Channel with Lucy, who's sitting here. She very kindly took me to Dover, and I mean literally all I did. I didn't even go to the wall. And there's Helen sitting there. Are you going down this weekend, Helen, or was it last weekend?
Right, last weekend.
For those people who don't know, the kind of scene at Dover is it's a very specific scene, and it feels it's kind of it's like going into some really strange club, because everybody's dressed in really unfashionable clothes, and then they all come out and dress in fleeces and kind of sit like little molten lumps of black on the beach, all shaking. And when I was there, a woman called Frida Streeter was running the session, and for those who don't know, Frida was kind of the face of Channel swimming for 30 years. She encouraged her daughter to swim, and her daughter is an extraordinary swimmer, swum the Channel more times than anybody else, 43 times. Does those things, swimming the Channel 3-way. I mean, why anybody would do that is completely beyond me, but that's, you get to France, and then you come home, and then you go back again. I mean, it's just it is a phenomenal feat. But anyway, Frida trains her daughter, and kind of just trained for 30 years anybody who wanted to undertake a Channel swim. And it runs a really tight ship. There's no messing about. She was telling me stories about how swimmers would try and kind of escape from her, and not do what she was telling them. So she would track them down and with her guide literally throw them back in the water. Pip, I see you there, Pip. I don't know if you've had experience of Frida when you've been training. And she's a formidable woman. You really wouldn't cross her. She's gruff. She sits on the beach in her funny shorts, smoking a fag, which I really respect, with a massive tub of Vaseline to grease everybody up, and a thing of in which everybody drinks. Then she just yells at people how much they've got to get in and swim, and it's horrible. The sea's horrible. It's grey, and there's you can see liners coming in and out. It's not this romantic vision. It's just horrible, but people still do it and go, and they train and they do what she would say, go and swim for 6 hours, and then people come out on the beach going, please don't make me do more, get back in the water. I think she must have just loved it. She wasn't even a swimmer. She just ran this little kingdom of hers for 30 years, and she's awesome. I wrote a piece for The Guardian this week about how we should have some statues for women swimmers, and definitely I think there needs to be a statue of Frida on the beach at Dover, because she was so key for so many women's, so many people's channel experience. So
how was it though, the bit?
Oh, I literally got in, swam around a bit and got out again, whereas everybody else, and it was right at the start of the season when I was doing it, so nobody was sent out for miles and miles, so it was absolutely fine. I got out before everybody else, even though I only was swimming for 10 minutes. But we've all swum, I presume we've all been in the sea off the British coast, and it's really, it's not pleasant. Anywhere at any point.
Dover is horrible, but the rest of it's good.
I grew up near Bournemouth, and the sea was. I mean, I go back now.
Cornwall?
Oh yeah, no, okay. I'm maybe exaggerating for effect. Okay. Scotland. Hebrides, yeah.
I agree, those bits are nice, but there's something about that.
Even the Welsh coast.
Oh, the Welsh coast, yes, okay, well it sounds actually, maybe it's just over. Maybe it's just
No, it's that whole stretch.
And Brighton's horrible.
Yeah.
People go to Brighton for the day and think, why do you do that to yourselves?
It's always murky.
It's always so contentious to say you don't like something to a swimming crowd. Start getting This is why I like my Lido, you see. You know what you're going to get in a Lido. It's never grey, it's always a lovely blue colour.
Unless the fountain's backside.
Unless it's greeny grey kind of.
There's one last bit which just really tickled me in the book that I'm just going to finish on before we come up with, open up for some questions. Do you want to read it?
No, you do it.
It's only a short bit.
Oh, well, I will if you prefer.
Well, I don't. It's not. It's like halfway through a sentence. It's just about the terriers.
Okay.
Just for women to remember, really.
Yes, this is kind of at the start of the 20th century. When it used to be segregated bathing, women and men couldn't bathe together on the beach, which meant that if you wanted to learn to swim, you couldn't get men could swim generally because they were allowed in the water, so that, as boys they were allowed to play in the water, but women weren't, so women tended not to be able to swim. So if you wanted to learn to swim, you couldn't ask your husband or father to teach you to swim because they weren't allowed to be in the water with you. So they could yell from up the beach at you, but they couldn't be in the water with you. When mixed bathing came along, people got really cross. There is just a sentence here. One of the most vocal opponents to mixed bathing was a Tunbridge councillor, Mr. Donald Clark, who raved that by making girls look like wet Scotch terriers, mixed bathing stops more marriages than any other cause. And the thing I really liked about that was his specificity of dog breed. Scotch terriers. That was somehow, any other kind of dog would have been acceptable. But a wet Scotch terrier, no, you've gone too far.
Brilliant. Do we have any questions? Yes.
There's a big group of
sorry. Yeah.
You said in your aside that if you say to a swimming crowd, people are going to go, I don't like this. A load of people are going to go, oh no, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
And people do have very strong opinions. I mean, I know if I mentioned wetsuits, half the room would go, oh no, never a wetsuit.
Yeah.
And the other half would go, oh, I love my wetsuit. And there's a big row going on Facebook at the moment about whether a child should be allowed to breathe out through their nose or their mouth. And people have really strong opinions on this. And it seems to be something where people do have strong opinions. I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that. Whether
Well, the great thing about writing a book is that you can just kind of make it's just my opinion that counts. I think probably in other communities people do. I think probably if this was a running community, maybe people would have, I don't know what running things there are to feel, but I'm sure there are some to feel really excised about. So maybe it's just that we know that community, and if we were in running communities, they would all say, no, you mustn't have music on, or you know. So maybe it's just that we know that's our little gang, and we love it so, and we're very protective of it. And I've been, you know, my views have changed on things. You know, I was totally anti-wetsuits until I got a wetsuit, and now I really quite like my wetsuit. You know, so. Yeah, maybe it's just that that's the world we know, so we defend it. We defend it passionately, and defend our views passionately. And maybe if we were all to join a running group tomorrow, we'd find that equally arcane and bizarre factions were making equally strange arguments with each other.
I always think that it's whatever makes you happy.
That's yes, but that doesn't. But nobody else thinks that, because people they stick their little flag in a position and stick to it really rigidly.
Maybe because I swim alone and I'm selfish and self-indulgent, but yeah, wetsuit, swimsuit, birthday suit, does anybody really care? That's always my opinion.
Birthday suits people would look quite a lot of tooting.
I'm just back from Finland. Yes.
I was very taken with you both saying early on that you grew up in households that weren't sporty households. And it goes, well, I never thought of swimming as a sport. I mean, I hated sport, but sport was what you did at school with people shouting at you on the hockey pitch, and it was horrible and miserable, and I was really bad at it, and people were mean to me because I couldn't run for the ball. Whereas swimming was what I did all day on Saturday with my friends, and I cycled there on my bike, and neither of those things were sport as far as I was concerned. They were just wonderful things that I did. So it just sort of was a bit of oh, yes, it's a sport, isn't it? And
It is a funny thing actually, because the other day, really helpfully, having written a book for the past year, last week my mother found my diaries, last week, thanks Mum, really helpful. And having said, my memory of childhood is, I started working in a swimming pool cafe when I was 15, and for me that's my first really strong memory of being in a swimming pool, and I would never have gone to swim. That would have been so uncool to go and swim, because I was working in a cafe. You know, swimming was the uncool thing. Being in the cafe, drinking Bovril, that was the cool place to be. So I kind of have this in my mind. I didn't really go swimming, and then this diary of age 10, and my daughter pointed out, Mum, for a household that never went swimming, you've been swimming 4 times in 2 pages. So clearly I was doing it, but actually even reading the pages, it wasn't like a whole heap of memories came flooding back to me. I still had no actual memory of really doing this thing. I kind of call it a sport because I'm published by a sports division of Bloomsbury, which to me, and anybody who's known me longer than 5 years, is a complete hysterical laugh, because, you know, I was always the girl smoking behind the bike shed. I actually really would still be very happy still being that girl. So kind of being allied to something that's a sport I find quite amusing. So that's maybe why I call it a sport now.
Ask a question.
Oh.
Sorry.
And then you, Hilary.
Sorry, I wanted to ask a question about what you were saying earlier about it being such a luxury, getting into the water when there's nobody there yet, having the pool to yourself, having the lake to yourself. So do you think it's a good thing when more people get into swimming and out? or because that's always the thing, the conversation that we have around the pool. Is it better to have more people there to kind of sustain the pool and keep it open all winter, or not?
Well, this is the ultimate paradox, isn't it? You know, I've gone and written a book to hopefully encourage and inspire people to go swimming. So, you know, God damn my own self. What I really wish is that more people would go. Of course, I wish more people would go swimming and find the absolute joy that I find in it, at whatever age you know, they're going to do it. But what I would really like is if they could consult me when I'm not going. So apart from that, yes, please, more people in the pool, just clear a space for Jenny so that she can have her lone time, you know, in the pool.
I feel quite the same way really, is if everyone could just stay in the Lidos in London and
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, I haven't read the books, but from the pictures it looks like you touch on lots of different periods of time in swimming. I'm just interested to know, was there any particular time you'd like to have lived and swum, having written about them? Or
Do you know, and actually women got such a terrible deal from most of the time, then probably no. This is Hilary Jennings, who is in my book, ladies and gentlemen, as the current plunge expert. Which was one of the very few activities that women were allowed to partake in public pools or private pools. They weren't allowed to swim in swimming competitions. Of course, they mostly couldn't, but they were allowed. The ones who could swim were allowed to do this thing called plunging, which is you get in and just lie still. And Hilary's an expert. She is the tooting expert. They count how far you travel until you have to come up for a breath. So.
But it's a really long way. How long is it? 66 feet and 4 inches or something?
Yeah, she's a living expert. Living expert in the room. Yeah. So, but actually, there is a time. And again, I wrote about these 4 women, and I like them so much I put them on my Twitter header. There's 4 women who sadly we couldn't use their picture in the book because it's a film of some women at Chiswick Baths in the 1920s, and these women just look really ace. There's 4 of them sat around the pool. They're all in kind of fairly unisex singlets. There's nothing that kind of would mark them out as being male or female costumes that they were wearing, because men and women often wore quite similar things, which again that's great. They're just sitting around the pool, all having a good old laugh, and they are in fact smoking, and that might be a bit of a theme, but they are. I think if I was going to be anybody, I'd want to be one of those women, because they are in a great community. They're chilling out by the side of the pool. Somebody's clearly telling a joke of some sort. They're really engrossed in a story that another one's telling. So if I was going to go back to a time, yes, I'll go back to Chiswick Baths in the 1920s with those very specific women, because that's when things were starting to shift around and women were starting to have careers and jobs and be able to hang out in the pool together. So yeah, I'll go there.
I like the idea of just having a little go in a bathing machine. I like the idea if you're going to go sea swimming on a shingle beach, that somebody could wheel you out, and maybe you could return the favour of wheeling them out afterwards. It's just like a bit of a giddy idea.
I'm a fan of a giddy idea, generally. That is a good point, actually, not having your little your lady slippers.
Just push that,
yeah.
you go for your swim, get back in, someone hauls you out again.
Yeah.
There's nothing grandeur about it, just, I'd return the favour afterwards.
That's the key. I mean, that is the key that wasn't actually happening when bathing huts.
Yeah.
It wasn't returned. It was a very definite, one class of women very definitely employed in the service of another class of women.
I think to save that, as you're going across the shingle, I think that's a nice idea.
Would you want your bathing lady though I don't think they were necessarily kind. I think if you were a bit timid when you were in the bathing hut, and they'd take the trouble of wheeling you all the way down to the edge, and you were kind of thinking, oh no, it's a bit cold. I think from what the accounts I've read, they just kind of hauled you out and dumped you into the water. It's like, for Christ's sake, we wouldn't get in. So I'm not sure you'd want that full bathing machine experience.
Just the pulling.
Just the pulling down
the
to the edge.
wheeling in and out would be great.
Yeah. There's.
Not so much of a question, but more of a comment.
I've spent the first 27 years of my life in Australia, and I was kind of surprised about 10 years ago when I started seeing all these things about wild swimming, of books and different things coming out, and because in Australia we just called it swimming. And I always have a little bit of a private little laugh to myself when I hear, when I read about the wild swimming, which I think, is fantastic and amazing and brilliant, and I like to do it myself, all that wild swimming in the sea, etc. I mean, I do have one little question, which is, do you know Gail Cartmale? That's all. She swims at Tootingbeck Lido.
I know her name, and I probably would know her in a swimming costume. But actually, it really actually is true that sometimes people turn up in their clothes, and you genuinely have no idea who they are, and then you have to, go, oh, I didn't recognise you with your clothes on, It's cheesy, but it's actually quite true. You very often don't recognise people.
I think your comment's valid. It's just swimming for us as well. It's just, wild swimming is just an in vogue phrase that's been coined recently. But equally, I think it's got a lot of people into swimming outdoors. So in that way, personally, I think it's quite a valid phrase for encouraging people outside. But it is just swimming. It's what we all do as kids growing up, messing about in streams and rivers.
I think it's great to feel part of it. I think people like to feel part of a movement, and if you look, I think Kate Rue's done an amazing job. I think she's the one who first coined the phrase here, and she started the Outdoor Swimming Society, which I know you're allied to. Yeah. And actually, for that organisation to have gone from a few people to is it 25,000? Yeah. It's a really significant membership, and I think people really like to feel part of something. And I think good on her for doing that, because it's brought a whole load of people together under an umbrella organisation that encompasses a whole lot of different people doing all sorts of different things.
It's gone from something that, I think a lot of people thought it was illegal to swim outside, and the Outdoor Swimming Society has changed that perception that it's not illegal, it's not dirty, it's not something you're not allowed to do. You can do it, and that's what it's about. So brilliant. Just not in Snowdonia.
If you were going to tell somebody who was nervous about swimming, just somebody, if you're going to tell them one thing that would get them in the water, what would it be?
Oh no, that's a really difficult question. What would I tell them? Well, my kind of thing is if I can do it, then anybody can do it. I kind of feel. What would I tell them? I'd just say, just get in and let yourself and let's see what happens, because I think. The great thing about swimming is that, and this is something with running as well, because I run a tiny little bit, and the thing I always think when I go for a run is that as long as somebody doesn't see you coming out of your actual house, by the time you're at the end of the road, you could have run for 26 miles, and nobody knows that. And so I think that same thing in the pool is that nobody actually is looking at you to make a fool of you, to judge you in any way. And even if you just manage it across one width, nobody's going to come after you and go, get out of the pool, you're a fraud. Nobody, everybody wants to see you across that width. So I mean, to try and encapsulate that into one sentence when I've kind of written a book is, I think I'd say, don't worry about what anybody else thinks, and just give it a go.
I think, again, do something for the sheer joy it brings you, whether it's...
I think it's quite hard to find the joy when you're nervous, though, isn't it? You kind of have to maybe scale down from joy for the first bit. Just